Recording on. And this session, we continue with the IELTS TOEFL. Last session, we talked about IELTS TOEFL speaking part and listening part in exam, and also CELPIP. I want to continue on reading and writing and how to help your students to improve their English. Okay, so the exam is based on the 4 skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking, of course. But remember, to get a good mark in international exam is not only the skills, but also your knowledge of the language. So knowing vocabulary and grammatical structures have very major roles in getting good grades. Look here, if your student wants to get 7 above, the level of their knowledge in English should be proficient user, advanced level. Otherwise, it could be, if it is something in between, like intermediate, it's between 5.5 to 6.5. And how much do they need to study? How many hours? It requires 100 to 150 hours of guided learning to change the level. Sometimes 120, 200 hours of guided learning to get from one level to the next. By guided learning means with professional teachers and all plan and schedules, not self-study only. So they need time. It doesn't happen in a month or in 2 months. So, okay, I have only 6 months. I need to get 7.5. And what's your level? Pre-intermediate. So you now you're professional teachers, and it says, I can say it's too difficult, almost impossible. So it's good to know how many hours they need to practice, plus learning, guided learning with the teacher. So how can we help how can we help our students? Vocabulary is 25% of your marks for IELTS. Also, grammar is another 25. So 50% of your marks for IELTS and TOEFL is your vocabulary and grammar. Number of words you use, the expressions are on ideas, or in another word, range of words and phrases you use, how accurate the words are in choice and formation, word formation, prefixes, suffixes, how appropriately placed, like collocations, phrases or idioms, formality level. Remember, IELTS is a formal exam. TOEFL, CELPIP, all of them are formal. Not too formal, but formal. And how well you reword an idea. So you have the idea, and then you want to start to write about it, task to writing, or talk about it. But you use the words that people don't understand what you really are talking about. It's just bunch of words next to each other, you know? So well reword an idea means you can convey your idea in a way that the listener or the examiner can understand. What is your point? Just bunch of difficult words, it doesn't mean you get a good mark. You know what I'm saying? Do I make sense? So some students think if they memorize some advanced level words, and while they are talking, they use some of them, that makes to get a better mark. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work because the listener get lost. So coherence and cohesion in speaking and writing both are important. If your students are talking in intermediate level, okay, all the words should be at that level, not 2 words from the advanced and the rest is structured in intermediate. There's going to be no cohesion. So if you want to help your students to improve, they need to improve in both vocabulary and structure, both. And they change the level, not just borrowing some words from upper levels and use it in lower structure.
Um, do IELTS and TOEFL also apply for Spanish language?
No, they have another. They have another international exam, which is
Okay.
called something else. For example, in German, because I know about German actually, they say A2 and B1, which talks about the different levels. But they take the four skills. They have to take the four skills, and they should know the vocabulary and grammar, and they have to use a range of different vocabulary and structure. So basically, the base of the exams is the same, but the language is different, and the question format also. How can we help our students to learn and improve in vocabulary? I always recommend to have notebook, digital or hard copy. It depends on them which one they're more comfortable with. So when they study, they need to put the vocabulary. It's better if they put it alphabetically or based on topic. So one part is for environment, one type is for nature, one part is for social media. So they put all the vocabulary related to environment in one part, all the vocabulary for social media in one part. That helps them to learn and remember better. So this is a way that I usually recommend to my own students. I said, write the word, then write the definition, put the word into a sentence to contextualize it. When we want to teach, we always said put your students in the context. Why? Because it's much easier to imagine and to remember. Just memorizing the word is too difficult. But if you can visualize the word in your imagination, it's much easier to remember. So put the word into a sentence to contextualize it. Check the form. Is it a noun? Adjectives, verb, adverbs, what else? What other words you could connect to it? Okay. So if it's a noun, is there a verb connected to it? Think about collocations, like set a table, not design a table. You know what I'm saying? So then it's good to know about the collocations, so common collocations. Look for synonym and antonym. And I said collocations. So there's a list. Also the stress is also important. Which syllable is the stress? And they have review it every day from beginning to the end. So when they want to talk, for example, next time you say, I'm going to ask you some questions, part one in speaking about environment. Review environment part of your vocabulary note. So to go and review all the words. Then next week, I wanted to ask you about social media. So they review the vocabulary for the social media. So they have the review time at home, but assessment happens in the class. Here is an example. The main word is steep, synonym sharp, abrupt, antonym gentle. Example, the prices may be steep this season due to fewer sales. So what's it mean? Flight of stairs or angle of the slope. It could be a sample. Or some of my students, they put pictures also. They said, okay, well, I have a very good visual memory, so I can remember it better. There are some topics in IELTS which are very common. Oh, oops, sorry. These 16 are very common and popular in IELTS, like we're talking about advertising, arts, body language, camping, coronavirus, a lot of these. years: crime, clothes, education, environmental problems, films, food, musical instrument, newspaper, people, plants, and technology. These are common topics. So it's good to know the common topics. They are not the only, but they are very common. So how to practice vocabulary? While they're talking, you take notes for the range of the vocabulary that they use. So we said for this question, I want you to say 5 related sentences. I always say to my students, part 1 speaking in IELTS, at least you need to give 4 or 5 related sentences. But for part 3, which is more abstract, you need to talk about 7 to 8 sentences and add examples and reasons. So when they know I have to make 5 sentences, so they focus on the range of vocabulary. And accuracy, how accurately and correctly they pronounce the word and use it in proper appropriateness, how appropriate their words are in that context. Let me tell you something. Sometimes the students look up the meaning and said the meaning is this, so I can use this word in this context. But it's not that. There are many words that they are synonyms, but it doesn't mean you can use all the words for all the contexts. That's why we say always teach your students the vocabulary parts in a context. So some of them are formal, some of them are informal, some of them doesn't use in this context, although the meaning are very similar. Paraphrasing helps them to improve their range of vocabulary. So give them some sentence and say, I want you to, do you understand the meaning? Check their comprehension and say, I want you to explain this sentence in your own words and use different words.
Can you please just remind me what paraphrasing is?
Yes, paraphrasing means you say or you write the context that you read or hear in your own words, not copying, not copying. I'm going to talk about paraphrasing very soon.
Thank you.
Sure. So basically, paraphrasing means to substitute a word or phrase for another or to explain meaning using different words. The meaning is the same, but the words are different. And practicing the ability to use the most specific word, which is very near to appropriateness. Here is an example. So here you said, Mr. Jones is really nice. She gave me some apples from her garden. So can you substitute another word for nice? What could you say?
Cute, great.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Not cute, but great, good. What about the next one? The movie was awesome. I love the special effects. What do you say for awesome?
Great. The movie
Great.
was great.
So for nice, maybe it's better you say kind, because you
Mhm.
cannot write great for all.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you can say it's really kind, but it was great. Okay. So that could be kind of example you can give to your students. Now, using more formal words. So you can give them some assignments or worksheet and ask them, okay, look at the bold words. I want them to say or to write these sentences with something more formal. Be quiet. The football game is about to kick off. So what do you say instead of kick off?
It's about to start.
Exactly. The noise from the teenagers' party gradually died down.
Hmm. Um, I forgot the word.
Slow down.
It
Okay.
decreased.
Okay. Okay, yes. So even maybe you said it in a sentence, you make it longer, for example.
I
So
think it's a good
gradually
practice
lesson,
even for us. Sorry.
yeah,
I
for
think it's a
anyone.
practice for even the teachers. It's a good one. I
Hmm.
like it. Not for
Yeah,
IELTS classes, for all kinds of classes.
yeah. So this is a part we're talking about to improving the level of their
Nice.
English.
Yeah, I
So
like it.
it's not only for the exam. It's not only for the exam. So for
Yeah.
example, for number two, you could say the noise from the teacher in a teenager's party gradually listen until you couldn't hear it anymore. That's dies down. So that could be another example, which help your student to focus. You know, many students think, okay, I'm gonna memorize 50 words, and when you ask them, they know the word and they don't know the definition. But at the time they want to use it, they cannot remember. Why is that? Why it happens?
Because they don't
Because
know the meaning in the context.
The
They
context.
just memorized it.
That's it. So here you put them in the context and they say, I want something more formal. So they have to show all they know to find it. Okay? This is another thing. Using linking words. You know, simple sentences is for lower level. When you want to talk for a higher level, you use cohesive devices. While, whereas, due to, in addition, although, thus, consequently. For sure, you need to teach them first when to use these cohesive devices or linkers and how you use it. But that could be a good practice. I want you to connect these sentences by using these linkers. Why? So they can speak longer. When you say, give me 7 to 8 sentences for these questions. So they should know how to connect the sentences together. There, for academic IELTS Task 1, you know, the students need to report a graph. There are some jargons for reporting that graph, like upward or downward trend. Many students just write increase, decrease, increase, decrease. But they want the range of vocabulary to get a better mark. So you can make a list. You can make a list and give it to students, like our trend. These are the different verbs and nouns. Rise, a rise. Increase, an increase. Climb, a climb. Grow, a growth. Go up, no noun. Downward trend, decrease, a decrease. Drop, a drop. Fall, a fall. Decline, a decline. So you practice with them. This is an example list. So you said, now I want you to write for this bar chart. They write it and bring it to you. So I want you to rewrite it and use different verbs. Or rewrite these highlighted sentences and use noun form. This is a good example for paraphrasing. You know, how do you paraphrase a sentence? Either you use synonyms, or you change the structure, or you use different part of speech. So we can rewrite it just by changing the verb form to noun form, or the noun form to the adjective form. That is paraphrasing too. Or make it from passive to active, active to passive. That is paraphrasing too. It's not only using synonyms. So that's going to be a good example for paraphrasing as well. Is that clear so far?
Yeah.
Yes, for everyone? Good. There are other lists like for task 1, same as fluctuation, dip, remain. So why I did this was first you make one list, practice with your students, then more complicated or more challenging lists after they learn the first list. Otherwise, it's going to be too difficult to learn everything all together. Okay? If you believe that your students need to focus on the vocabulary, you can even have the description or the report of task 1 and ask your students just to remember the word and fill in the blanks first, because you want to focus on the new vocabulary. So they fill in the blanks 1 or 2 times, then it's going to be more challenging and more difficult. Afterwards, you ask them, now I want you to write the whole paragraph. But first, let's only focus on the new vocabulary, the new verbs. If you're looking for books to improve their IELTS vocabulary, these are very good books. English Vocabulary in Use. That one is for General English 2. So it starts from elementary, pre-intermediate to advanced. These ones are for IELTS. The vocabulary for IELTS, the first purple one is up to grade 6, but this advanced is from 6.5 to above. If you believe your students need to practice more on collocations, English collocation in use, intermediate and advanced, they are very friendly users and practical. And to improve their knowledge of vocabulary, also Oxford word skills. Okay, for elementary, intermediate, and advanced. These are samples, but I'm sure you can find other books too, but these are good samples. Any questions so far? No. One of the problems that most of foreign students have is pronunciation. Guys, I told you before, accent is not important anymore, but it should sound English. How it sounds English with accurate and clear use of the sound. So it goes to word stress, sentence stress, intonation, and rhythm. Even if you speak your mother tongue with no intonation, no rhythm, no sentence stress, people cannot understand it. Okay, so that's very important. That is very important. This is an example for word stress. You give them the words and said, I want you to highlight or underline the syllable which is stressed. So they can use their dictionary and look it up. So they should know it's kitchen, not kitchen, kitchen, industry, important, interrogation, economy, afternoon. I hear it so much that say with afternoon, which is completely wrong. Afternoon, industrial, intelligent, interrogate, economical. So when they are looking and they're looking it up in a dictionary, that's a good practice. So they focus on syllable. And then they learn how to highlight or how to underline so they understand how many syllables a word has. So once more, accent is not that important. Word stress. What else? Sentence stress. When I read it like this, as the truck came down the hill, its brakes failed and it was unable to start. How much you understand it? If I read it as the truck came down the hill, its brakes failed and it was unable to stop. So you get the point. Oh, so something bad happened. Truck, hill, brakes fail, unable to stop. So you get the point. Sentence stress is also very, very important. And if they know sentence stress and they can use it properly, I'm telling you, they get a very good mark in speaking because they have a very good impact on the examiner. It shows you are professional in using the language. Do you get what I mean? Do I make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, good. What about grammar part? Generally knows that using passive voice makes your context more formal. Okay, so try, if you want to get, tell your student, if you want to get good marks, use passive voice in your writing, task 2 writing, essay writing, and also in your speaking. And remember, change the tone according to the situation, of course. When you are talking about some disaster, so you cannot be so excited and happy or monotonous because this is something disaster, like talking about the horrible earthquake. That was horrible. So you never say, oh, that was horrible. You know what I'm saying? The tone is going to be different too. Just look at the band score. This is for public, between 6 and 7. For Lexus, 6, some errors in spelling or word formation. But for 7, it said occasional errors in spelling and word choices. So occasional means what to you? What does it mean, occasional?
Sometimes it happens. Maybe it's a slip of the tongue, even.
Yeah, a few times, not very often. Not very often. Exactly.
I'm sorry, is it the same in the writing using
Yes, same.
passive?
Yes. Passive generally makes the context more formal.
Or
Just watch British movies. You can hear how much passive they use.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Especially
Thanks.
for the movies that are more formal.
Yeah.
And even for grammar, look at for grade 6, it said the candidate holds the capacity to use a mix of simple and complex sentences. So simple and complex linkers make some grammatical errors that do not usually hamper the communication. So you can understand it. But in 7, the candidate uses a variety of sentences. See, variety of sentences structure with frequent error phrasing. Has decent grammar control. So maybe you correct yourself, which is nice, However, makes a few mistakes or few errors. See that there's no huge difference, but the grade is very different between 6 to 7. So they need to practice more. But what about grammar structure? When we talk about get the better marks for speaking and writing, it's not only vocabulary, but also grammar. So the number of different sentences structure be used to express the idea, the length and complexity of sentence structure, not very simple sentences, and how accurately a range of sentence structure used, subject, verb, agreement, not the tense. Tense is very important, and how appropriate the sentence structure are to the context. So this shows how much you understand the context when you use the appropriate structure. What about the range of grammar or grammatical range? You don't need to teach A to Z. These are the common ones that they need to be more accurate in. Tenses, active, passive, conditionals, comparative, superlative, just comparing one thing to the other, modal sentences, reporting sentences, relative clauses, who, which, where, linkers, cohesive devices, however, although, in addition, also, sentence length and complexity. So subordinated, not simple sentences, also articles, a and the, and proper preposition, just on or in. Okay? These are very important. So if you don't have time, I mean, you don't have 2 years to practice with your students, focus on this range of grammar points with your students. They can get above 7 for sure. Here's an example of sentence practice that you can ask your students to complete the text below by putting the correct form of the verb. So you give them the verb, you want to practice the tenses. I want to introduce you to a good friend of mine called John, whom I met 20 years ago. We good friends ever since. So what do you see is what do you put for here?
We were.
Ever since, from the where
We
means
have
it's
been.
finished.
We have been. Sorry.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So it's going to be a good practice
Nice.
because if you focus, sometimes you want to be focused on one point. Sometimes you want to check the cohesion. When you want to focus on vocabulary, give blanks for vocabulary. If you want to focus on tense, give them the verb. Just ask them to put it in the correct form. Okay? Then I always give them, you know what? I always give them the answer key as well. Because when they look at the answer key, then I ask them, they think why it is wrong. They have to go and study to find a reason. You know, they're adults, they're going to take international exam. So they should learn to take the responsibility for their learning. Okay? So they have to go and find out why it is wrong and why this is correct. While they're studying and looking for it or searching, Googling, they learn more. So teaching in academic level is different from general English. In academic level, work on a student's autonomy. Let the students search. Let's get them food to think. Okay? Food for thought. Here is another one. How to make complex sentences. You can give them simple sentences and ask them by using a subordinated conjunction or relative pronoun, make them more complex. Like the first one, I lent some money to my brother. He probably won't return it. So how could you change this sentence to a complex sentence? There are 2 separate simple ones. Now you want to connect these 2. How do you say that?
I say although maybe. I lent it, although he probably won't return it.
Okay, very good. What else?
However.
That's nice. Okay, I lent some money to my brother, who probably won't return it. That could be right too. Or here for which one is the conditional? Oh, sorry. For example, number 4, it might rain today. The ground will become very wet. How do you say that? Come on, make guesses. I'm going for number 4. It might rain today and the ground will become very wet. Or you can use conditional. Conditional for. If it rains today, the ground will become very wet. That would be right, nice too. That's more professional, yeah?
Sure.
So they can use conditional for. You can work on multiple choice format. The number of researchers chosen for the prestigious award have more than tripled over the past decade. Sometimes I want to make it more challenging, so I don't underline the phrase. So it's not, okay, fine, what is mistake? What is the mistake? And then write it for you. But this one, in this form, when you give choices, it's easier. It's easier. So I underlined the part and I said, okay, A, B, C, D. Which one is correct? Which one is correct, guys?
D has been more than.
Mm-hmm. Has more because it said the number.
Yeah.
Or the result of the survey clearly, oops, sorry. Okay. Clearly indicates a reduction in the number of students choosing to study abroad. So here,
Okay.
the results, okay? So the results is plural. So we say, I didn't get what you said. So it couldn't be indicates. It's definitely indicate.
Yeah.
So even you can ask them why A is wrong or why B, why you say B, give you the reason. Give you the reason. And little by little, you make it more challenging, more difficult. For example, this one, evidence from studies and interviews show that friendships formed in primary school tend to last longer than those made in university. So A, B, C, D, which one do you think is correct?
A.
Okay. Evidence, actually. It's evidence. Look for
Sorry,
the, yeah.
which one is the correct one?
And the interviews is plural.
Okay, evidence from studies and interviews.
Yeah. So it's plural.
Okay.
Show.
No, you always look at the first part in the subject.
Sorry, can you go back? I couldn't understand at all the correct answer.
Here is the correct answer. I make it red.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Show
When there are two parts, you go for the first part.
Oh, really?
Yeah, shows.
Evidence and interviews.
Oh, okay. But you don't go for the whole thing.
Come on.
Now you look at the first subject. Evidence shows. Okay? Evidence shows that pension reform, yes, in primary school 10, but it said primary school. Okay, here look. Evidence from studies and evidence. So evidence shows. Yes, evidence shows, not interviews. Evidence from studies and reviews.
Yeah.
Evidence shows the friendship formed in primary school tend to last. Okay? And this one, the article on wildlife trade published in the New Yorker neither refers to nor specifically outline the methods that the police employs in the fight against poaching. So what is the correct one?
C.
Okay. What about the others? Do you agree or you have different ideas?
Okay.
Okay. It said the article. Okay. Always look for the subject. The article refers. Is that it? Yes? So don't think about other parts of the other parts of the sentence. Just look at the subject. So refers, refer to. So the verb refers, refer to what subject? What is the subject? The article. The article is individual. So yeah.
Why the word employee doesn't have an S at the end? Instead, police
Oh, okay.
employee.
That's typo.
Employee
No,
employees.
so you can, I can put S. Okay. And
So
here's
it
the police. Oh no, it's a verb here for the police. I was thinking employers or employees. The police employ in the fight against poaching. Yes.
Mm, sorry,
Yes.
again, is the
Uh,
word employ without S or with S?
okay. What do you want to say that? You want to say it? It's. Can you say that your question again? I don't. Let me bring it. Oh, I
Right.
was losing. So here it
Yeah.
said. Okay, I see. So that's S. Talking about that S employed. So I want to tell you something, Vianney.
Thank
Good?
you.
Sure, sure. But that was a very good question. There was no X. Here are some sample for grammar part. How to practice grammar. These are good books, useful basic grammar in use for different levels from elementary to advanced. Grammar for IELTS, it focuses on different questions in reading, writing that your students can practice the range of vocabulary, the range of, I'm sorry, grammar. And that one, Oxford Practice Grammar, again for 3 levels, elementary, intermediate, advanced. These books are good for self-study as well. So you can teach it in the class and then choose some parts, some assignments, and then ask them to practice at home. Or you can assign some part, they do it at home, then come to the class and you get the feedback and assess your students. Very easy to find. These books, very easy to find. So back to reading and writing in IELTS and TOEFL. For IELTS, it's going to be 60 minutes. For TOEFL, 60 to 100 minutes. In IELTS, they are going to read, it's task 1 and task 2. Task 1 for academic is different. They report, okay? They have to write a report for bar chart or a pie chart or write a graph or about a graph or a map. And then task 2, it's an essay writing. So they have a topic, and according to the questions, they have to write 250 words, 250 words. So it has 2 sections, but let me put it here. So where is it? That was for writing, guys. I'm very sorry. I'm in the reading part. So mine was different from yours. So that's why I mixed it up. What I was talking, it was for writing. So it has 2 parts. And how do you write? For task 1, they have 60 minutes. So it's usually to manage the time, it's usually students put 20 minutes for task 1 and 40 minutes for task 2, because task 1 is only 150 words. But task 2 is 250 words, at least. So 20 minutes for task 1 and 40 minutes for task 2. General IELTS, they have to write an email. So the email is like invitation, request, or apologize, different kinds of email they need to write. So they're given the context, what is the context, and what should they write, and then they have 20 minutes to write. For TOEFL, it's not paper. In IELTS, you have a chance for paper and computer-based. In TOEFL, it's computer-based, so they have to type, and they are going to listen to something, they take notes, or they read something. Then they need to write 150 to 225 words in 20 minutes for the first. For the second part, they write 5 paragraphs essay between 300 to 350 words in 30 minutes. But what about for writing, for reading? Reading in IELTS is about 60 minutes. It has 3 sections or 3 reading parts, from easy to difficult. So the first one is shorter. So I usually say to my student, put 50 minutes for for the first reading, 20 minutes for second reading, and 25 minutes for the last one, because the last one is longer. Different types of questions, like true, false, not given, yes, no, not given, find matching and finding the headings, answer to the questions, multiple choice. So there are different forms of types of questions. But in TOEFL, it's 60 to 100 minutes, 3 to 6 sections, same level of difficulty, and for each section, 20 minutes to complete the questions, and it's all multiple choice form. And it's drawn from academic content. For IELTS, for general, it's different. It's general content and maybe more 3 to 6 small parts. For academic, it's academic content, of course, but in TOEFL, it's only academic. You have a sample in content in Canvas that I'm gonna show you. But before showing you the Canvas, let's talk about cohesion. Guys, can you tell me what does cohesion mean? What does it mean?
Cohesion is to put things together.
Very good. So what is cohesion in your writing or speaking? Means they shouldn't be like leaves of the tree.
Kind of
Different.
Yeah, related.
It should be related. So how? By using pronouns. Use time indicators first, then after that, next, finally, or firstly, secondly, something like this. Or conjunctions, connectors, contrast, cause and effect in a passage. Using words like because, due to, so, as a result, although, despite, in addition, not only, but also. So the linkers, do you remember the part that I said you can give them blanks and ask them to write cohesive devices? That's a good kind of practice. So it works on cohesion to connect the sentences and even connect the paragraphs. Here is an example. You give them the words and said, okay, choose from these words: later, then, already, firstly, while, as, next, during, after, until, previously, and fill in the blanks. So they have to read it once, comprehend, then they should know the meaning and usage of the other words and where to put them. So here you focus on linkers and cohesive devices. Then they have the answer. They should find the reason for their errors. Why did they make mistakes? This is the another form. Even you give them the words, or no, they have to find it, to find the words by themselves. This is more challenging. So working on conjunctions and connectors. Again, you have the answer. If you're looking for some resources online, Liz, Simon, and IELTSadvantage.com are very good resources. And they're authentic. Many resources for IELTS and TOEFL. These are for IELTS actually, but not all of them are authentic. But Liz, Simon, IELTSadvantage.com, these are the authentic resources. So let me show you the canvas. What do you have on Canvas? Can you see the page? Canvas page? Yes? Okay, so you go to modules to the very end here. After the final research paper, final board exam, you pass that one too, you get to TOEFL. Okay? These are the sample of TOEFL. The speaking part, listening part, writing part, resources, practice tests. So here, for example, let's check. So here's it about the listening section. So here, Here, me see video unavailable, but I'm sure it is available. I don't know why here it said here. So, and you have the script, okay? Your transcript, video transcript, and then here, the source. Also, so this is to the very end. That's the sources for TOEFL, and here is for IELTS. Okay, so let's check the listening here. IELTS listening test, sections, transcript, and examples.
All this TOEFL information and IELTS, is it going to be in the last exam that we are going to do?
No, no.
Okay, this is just for knowledge for us and
Yes.
for students that
And
want to speak
also,
English.
yeah. And
Okay.
also to write the lesson plan. How do you practice, for example, different skills with your students? How do you help them to improve? Which is your plan? So you just writing to improve their vocabulary in IELTS. How do you work with them? You write a lesson. But I assume you are going to write about Spanish, which is different. Is that right? Yes. Yeah. So guys, so far, any questions? It's time to ask.